You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hi, it's Kat Shamapande. Today I've got a co-host with me, Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP.
Hey,
Thanks
Kat.
for joining me, Mark.
Thanks. I enjoy being here.
And we're going to talk a little bit today about social media.
Hey, I'm a white pages guy. I don't know anything about this, but I figured I'd sit in and hear about it. I'm really interested in learning more. I'm glad we have two experts with us.
Yeah, they can tell us how we can sell more bonds using social media, right, guys?
That's right.
So
By the way, can we live stream this?
Sure.
I'm just
Right
joking.
now on Facebook, right? So I am joined by Edin Zakanovich and Josh Adamati from Construction Bonds, Inc., and it's a division of Murray. And they're going to share with us some stories from the field about how they have used social media to help build those relationships in the surety industry.
Yeah, thank you. We've been kind of raised in the internet age, I guess, so we know a little bit about social media, and we either have dated on social media, or we'll tell you a little bit about that. But now we actually date in the business world on LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, all those things, and we're happy to talk about that today.
Awesome.
Yes.
So can you give me any instances of like how you've marketed yourself or help through social media, or help to build a relationship with like an existing customer through social media?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We do a lot. We do most of our stuff we started doing on LinkedIn, which I'll talk mostly about. We just started dabbling in Instagram, but LinkedIn is where we found a lot of our success.
Okay.
It's a professional network. A lot of our clients are already on there. Our prospects and really our referral sources. We found a lot of our success is not really with getting a contractor to work with us from LinkedIn, but it's rather a referral source saying, hey, you're out there in the field, you're passionate about surety, you're passionate about small contractors, let's work together, let's collaborate. And we have those kinds of conversations thanks to LinkedIn. We post a picture or we tell a story, and that gets our foot in the door.
Well, we view LinkedIn almost as Facebook. What Facebook is for family, or at one point was for dating. We view it as LinkedIn professional version of that. Every so often you do see someone post a picture of their breakfast, and you're like, oh God, delete. But
Tip number one, don't post a picture of your breakfast on LinkedIn.
Lunch and dinner, okay, just not breakfast.
Now, when you say LinkedIn, now are you talking about kind of a personal profile or a company profile or both?
For us, it's primarily been a personal profile. We have a company profile, which is handled by our home office. We give them data or information to post.
Yeah.
Or they'll retweet what each of us will do.
Exactly.
Share what you're posting. Yeah.
But it really gives us a personal face to our brand, and it allows us to tell a story. LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to have a tagline or kind of a hero title. If you want to call yourself a thought leader or what have you, you can certainly do that. But, when I first started using it, I called myself the surety bond professional for the small and emerging contracting community. And when people see that, they say, okay, this guy's in surety and he does small contractors, not an account exec, not a producer, but somebody who cares about small contractors and does surety.
So how do you demonstrate that? Like, what kind of information do you put up there besides kind of giving that tagline to yourself? Do you give examples? Do you give descriptions?
Yeah. So, one thing that Edna and I do a lot of, we've been doing it for, I guess, over 10 years now, is we do a lot of dog and pony shows where we do bonding 101 workshops. We do managing growth workshops. We do it with general contractors or local resource centers that help small contractors or small businesses in the
DOT,
in the area.
Different government agencies.
Yeah, so we do a lot of those workshops, and we always make a point to take a picture of it and write a little tagline like, "Hey, we had a great time at the DOT bonding education program. Lots of great contractors, lots of great content." And people start to like it, and we're always looking at the likes and seeing who likes it and where it's reaching, what territory it's reaching, and then
because if somebody likes it, then their contacts are viewing those likes as well, and then we're getting the word out even further.
You have them hooked, right? A little bit.
Yeah. And now we see there's an opportunity. Hey, somebody like this, and they're out of our network, and this person's a banker. We should reach out and say hi. Obviously, they see value in Surety, and let's make a connection. So we add them and say, hey, I saw you liked my page, and I'd love to connect with you over coffee or lunch and just talk about bonds and how we might be able to work together.
Well, and I love that you mentioned the live presentation aspect and how you use that again on social media, because even those live presentations, though it's not online, it's still a kind of social marketing.
It is. And we tried this for the first time at a presentation for a GC. We had just got Instagram and we were playing with all this stuff. And I did a story.
I think they call it the gram now.
The gram.
Gosh.
Excuse me. Well, my gray hairs.
We're the experts here.
And so we're doing the bond presentation, and I'm doing the Insta story, and I'm panning across the room with the camera. And Eden was presenting, but I had control of the computer. And he goes, next slide, Josh. And I wasn't paying attention because, of course, I was Insta story. I said, I'm sorry, I'm doing my Insta story. And the whole crowd laughed. And by the end of the class, we had like 5 more ads on our our Instagram page. So that was a nice thing for us to see, and people are kind of welcoming to it. We used to think, gosh, people have their heads in their phones, and that's so rude, and there is a certain element of that still to today, but people are not as it's not as taboo to say, I'm going to do a selfie, or I'm going to take a video of this because this is really cool and I want to share it with my network.
I mean, the hardest part that we're finding, especially with Instagram or the gram, is if you're a contractor, it's easy. You just take pictures of your job sites, of your new equipment. Taking a picture of a bond's kind of boring.
Look, I'm the old guy in the room, so maybe kind of step back a little bit and tell me, what's the difference between LinkedIn and Instagram or the gram? Sounds like one is kind of more geared to pictures, images, graphics. Other ones maybe a little bit more kind of a profile and responding to that.
I was going to say, you like the newspaper. And Instagram's kind of like reading the full article, where Instagram is kind of looking at the comics. You're seeing the pictures maybe with a one-line or tagline, and that's it. So a lot more pictures, on Instagram.
So do you feel like you have different techniques that you use through Instagram versus LinkedIn in terms of how you're trying to reach people?
Absolutely. I know with LinkedIn, we do share the pictures of the different events that we sponsor or do, but more often we're posting pictures on different topics within the industry, different news articles, especially if NASBP shares an article about a contractor failing and a surety stepping in and helping out. Well, I'm sharing that story on my LinkedIn page right away, and you can see that you go from 1 to 2 people viewing it to thousands of people viewing it. So that's how we're utilizing LinkedIn. But with Instagram, we'll go do a job site visit, or we'll do a different workshop and take a picture of that and tag a number of different contractors, and they'll connect to their contacts as well.
Yeah, and Instagram is really more for the company rather than the individual.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn does have a company interface, but it's really more for the individual. So when we're prospecting and when we get a first-time phone call, one of the first things that we do after we take the intake is I try to find them on LinkedIn. And I add them, hey, it was great talking to you today. Look forward to keeping in touch. And oftentimes when they call us for that first bond, they don't need that bond. Something happens, it gets waived. They end up, not qualifying for it or whatever. And 6 months later, they forget about us if we're not keeping up with them. So by us posting on LinkedIn, they are reminded, oh yeah, those bond guys, they were at that event last week and I need to get that bond package completed. So we're kind of peppering them all throughout the marketplace. We're sending them emails on our, from our end, but we're also putting articles up online. And I can't tell you how many times contractors tell us, you seem like you know a lot about the industry. And
you're everywhere.
You're everywhere. And,
That's a nice thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
got you fooled.
Well, and there's all we're doing is taking a really cool article about a construction job that went belly up or something, and we're posting it.
Yeah.
And we're just sharing information, but we're so viewed as being in tune and knowing what's going on in the world. And that has created business for us. I mean, we talk about the referral sources, but we've had a handful of opportunities where contractors have messaged us and added us and said, I need to get qualified for bonding, or I need a small license bond to get started. And now we're having those conversations with them, and they're seeing us on LinkedIn.
Well, if you're looking to obtain a bond for the first time, and you go to the agent's website and let's say they have one, that's a good start. But usually those websites just give you paperwork to fill out. What else can you go on? If you go on LinkedIn, you see that they're involved in various associations and different outreach events, and you find them on Instagram, and you see that they're working with different contractors and different job sites. That makes you feel more comfortable, and the trust that you give that agent is strengthened, and you want to work with them even more. Otherwise, you're calling some random person, giving them your personal information, your social security number, bank accounts, and saying, I just need a bond.
So Josh said that he looks up new clients online to see what their online presence is like, and you find
that's part of the underwriting process. Google
but you find
the
your clients are doing the same thing to you.
Yeah, I believe so. The smart ones are.
Now you said you message them. So does LinkedIn have a private messaging vehicle within it, or do you go email, text? How do you reach out to those individuals?
Well, if we're doing the first intake, we'll send them a bonding package, and we'll have their email address, and we'll say, I'll send you an email. But we always make a conscious effort to go on LinkedIn or find them on Instagram and try to add them, so we capture that whole process right there. But LinkedIn is where we're trying to make that first connection. So they're constantly seeing the information that we're putting out there.
And if they see that we're linked with other contractors that they work with or that they trust, it just gives them more trust in us.
Yeah, it kind of legitimizes your viewpoints.
Absolutely.
And as small a market as the construction industry is, especially in a territory, it's very rare that we add somebody, we see them, and there's not somebody else in common. So now you have more to talk about. Oh, you know so-and-so? Oh, yeah, I use them as a sub. Oh, that's one of our clients. Okay, now you're getting closer to locking that account in, and you've got a much better opportunity now.
Seems like a lot of your effectiveness has come from making that commitment to frequently engage in social media. You're doing the post. You're figuring out ways to reach out. I mean, how important do you think that is to be that consistent presence?
Well, we talk about it in the office all the time, and that's what can you bring in terms of value to the contractor. Everybody can sell a bond. I mean, if you have a good balance sheet and your strong account, anybody can write you. That's the easy part. But people want to work with folks who are knowledgeable, who know the industry, who can make connections. I think of a contractor that's a national contractor or national subcontractor now. They were moving their corporate headquarters from California to Virginia. He ended up being a friend of a friend, living in the same neighborhood. We kind of became friends and got to know each other, but he never pulled the trigger to working with us.
Yeah.
But I would send him pre-bid, notices, and I would say, hey, there's a pre-bid for this hospital job because they specialize in hospital work. And I said, this might be a good job for you. And after like the third or fourth time, he said, hey, you seem to be pretty in tune with the local network. We're moving our headquarters here. I need to work with a guy that gets the territory. I want to work with you. And turned out, he was already set up with a bond company that we were working with. It was a very easy transition for us. Now they've got a ton of bond capacity. They're a great client. And really it's because we kept him updated with local events. We provided value as an agent that maybe their other agent was just kind of sitting there and collecting a check because the account was very easy to write.
And one of the things that we do that, from what we've been told, is quite different than other agents. We don't do any cold calling. So we meet contractors at various events and we take their card. And when we get back to the office, we put them in our system. And so every contractor we've met is in our system. And in that system, we send them, so for example, around November, December timeframe, not that that's the time of year now. You can edit that part.
This could be at any time during the calendar year.
Let's,
It was hot out there today. Yeah.
Mark, you're wearing shorts. All right, let's redo that. So we take their card and put it into our system, and we will send them emails. So as an example, in November, December timeframe, we will send them emails of saying the year end's approaching.
Yeah.
Have you considered obtaining a CPA statement? As a reminder, your good tax accountant, if they're doing their job, they'll tell you to pull money out of the company. But if you do that, you're impacting your bond program, and here's things you should consider. So we'll send them emails about value-added topics such as that, or various events that are going on in the city, whether it's contractor outreach events or pre-bid meetings. Nothing to do with bonding, but just these constant emails about different events or different topics. Every so often, we'll throw one in there. Hey, you need a bond that we can help you with? But we've had contractors. So when we started doing this, and we'll send emails constantly, and we have thousands upon thousands of contacts in there, we're thinking we're probably boring these people. We're if you're, unfortunately, our system doesn't have a unscribe button. Unfortunately, I guess for them, but maybe a small handful of people have actually contacted us and say, hey, can you remove me?
And most of the time, they're just saying, like, I don't want to, I didn't need that bond anymore. It's not like, don't talk to me. It's like, I needed a small license bond and I don't need it.
Or I needed a small bond, or we met you, I haven't needed a bond. Or, I've had a number of people where we met them 4 years ago. They didn't need a bond till today. And they'll say, hey, I kept getting all your emails. And my first question is, did you hate them? And you're like, no, they were great. But I need a bond today. Can you help me out? And that's what we love to hear is those stories. And I've had prospects change servers and change their emails, call me and say, hey, can you add my new email to your system?
That's great.
Like, well, not only can I do that, but can you come work with me now? So, but it's those little touches. You don't want to be overburdening and constantly sending anything you see. Like, hey, I saw this.
Well,
that's
and then
annoying.
LinkedIn gives you another way to do that. So you're not constantly just hitting them via email. You have another way. You can talk to them on LinkedIn. You can reach out with post on the gram.
On the gram. And there's
IG.
It's funny. It kind of always goes back to email, because we started at LinkedIn, and you have this kind of nice conversation back and forth. And at some point, one person says, let's turn this into email. And then here's my email. Here's my phone number. Let's chat. And that's when okay,
it's
we're
like the growth
in great.
Of the relationship.
It went from the PMs to the DMs to the cell. It's
they swiped right on you, John.
Yeah, right. But that's some of the other stuff we're doing. We're playing around with filters, or presets. So change the lighting a little bit. It gives a nicer presentation. How many times I see people at this great event, and it's just a bunch of people's heads, the back of their heads, and so we say, how can we have a different picture that's going to show people and show the story? So it always feels awkward, because you're the person in the back of the room, taking the photo of the head, but I'm the guy who goes up to the front. I'm going to take a picture, and you see all the faces of the people that are there that are taking notes. They're engaged. And again, it used to be taboo, but now when I do a presentation, I'm like, I'm just going to take a quick picture of the crowd, and nobody cares. Everybody thinks it's great. And they say, hey, can you send me that to me? I want to put it on my page too. And it allows us to have a conversation with them.
And one of the ideas that we had for the longest time that we've been meaning to do, and then one day Mark calls us, was, hey, you guys want to do a podcast? So for the longest time,
you're here. You're doing it.
It was a great idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, it feels like a dream right now. But so many people, especially in the DC metro area with the traffic, you're in the car constantly. I live 7 miles away from my house, and sometimes it takes me 40 minutes to get home. So what do? Listen to a podcast. And so we've wanted to create one on bonding and social media, and here we are.
Yeah.
So, one word I haven't heard you utter is Twitter. So do you see that as a useful tool?
Too political.
How do you view that?
Well, we do have a Twitter page. I've kind of been the one that's kept up with it, and it's a lot of fun. It feels very culty, like people that love
Right.
Twitter, love it, and they post all the time, and you can really get a good following. I think you should be doing all of them, but that also takes time, and we only have so much resources. So we made the decision, okay, we're going to focus on a few things. And so we, occasionally retweet on Twitter, but we're on primarily Instagram and LinkedIn now, because LinkedIn allows all three of us, there's 3 producers in the office, to build our own brand, but also build the company brand in terms of what we're all trying to accomplish.
I think you have to have a presence in all media platforms, but you have to understand what the media platforms are being used. And in my opinion, right or wrong, Twitter is a complaint platform. If you're complaining about something, you go on Twitter. So to send your message of positivity and desire to help people through bonding, people are going to heckle you on Twitter. So you can't really do too much.
A little more limited in what you can maybe send out there as a message, perhaps on Twitter.
It's very abbreviated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to use a lot of abbreviations, and only so many, hashtags and things that you could use. And it always felt like a challenge. It's not a bad thing. It's different strokes for everybody, I guess. But for us, it's just something that we haven't really played with too much.
Yeah, hashtags between Twitter and Instagram can be so different, because Instagram, it's pretty much unlimited. I think they recommend 20 or more hashtags.
Yeah, if you want to capture the audience, you gotta hashtag everything.
Yeah. That's so funny. Well, have you had any posts that you've put up on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn that have gone viral, or just had a really great following or success rate that you could share with everyone?
Yeah, I think we both had a few. I mean, I had one. I was my son at the time was maybe 3.5 or 4 years old, and I had gone to a job site, and there was a hard hat and a pair of safety goggles in the back, and I had him sitting next to his car seat, and he put it on. And every time we drive by, there's a construction site that we would drive by, and I'd be like, oh, that's construction. And I'm like, well, Daddy does kind of like construction, but he helps people in construction. And so he put the hard hat on, and he had the safety goggles on, and I turned around and I saw him with it on, and it was just the cutest moment. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, take a picture with Daddy. And I smiled, and it was just a sweet moment that we both kind of shared. But I don't know, I felt like I kind of want to share this with the world because it's so cute. And talking about, I want to do construction bonds like Daddy, and I want to help people too. And I put it up, and it seemed to have it didn't go viral. I didn't get a million views, but those in the surety industry, even a little while ago, somebody said, oh, how's your son doing? I'm like, how did you know I had a son? He's like, oh, I saw the post on LinkedIn, and he's so cute. And he even asked me, have you taken him to a job site yet? And it kind of turned into another conversation, like, you should take him there. It'd be really fun for him. And all that. So that was kind of our success. And we've had some posts, just, general bonding stuff that gets a lot of love. And again, it's usually the referral sources. They're like, man, these guys are everywhere. They're out there. They're doing it good for the industry.
The only viral video I've had is one of me falling down, but that's
we won't talk about that.
We won't talk about that.
Well, it was great talking with you both today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.